everybody. Welcome to the Struggling Hunters, another awesome podcast coming your way. This is episode 74.
No,
Man,
is it
it's
74? It's 75.
did I say 74?
Yeah. Sorry. I know that's not a big clerical issue, but
Oh, you're right. You know what? You're right. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes the last time. Uh yeah, this is embarrassing.
but
So the last time I took notes, I took it in my notebook. No, I took it in my notebook. It was episode 73, but the last time that we did this, I put the notes in my phone for 74. So you're right. I messed up. It's 75.
well, welcome everybody. And continue, Eric.
All right, episode 75. Thanks for the correction. We probably went way deeper into that than we needed to, but anyways, 75. So dude, that's kind of like another milestone, really,
Yeah,
75. Man, that's
that
crazy.
is.
That's awesome. And we're starting to get a little more traction, and it just seems like it's kind of bumping up a little bit as far as the stats. Joe and I mean, it's weird. If it wasn't so easy to look at our analytics, I'd be like, let's not look at like if we had to go to analytics.com or whatever, I'd be like, let's never go there. Let's just plug away until, one day we realize that we're fairly big, then maybe check it. But it's so easy to look at our analytics that it's kind of hard not to look at them. But I try not to really put a lot of emphasis on them or anything, but I, just keep plugging away. But it's cool though, because you're like, oh wow, we kind of got a few more views or whatever,
Yeah.
or our watch time is a little bit longer on all our platforms. It seems like it's all kind of working out quite a bit. So thanks for the support, guys. Sorry for the crappy introduction. It was I really kind of fell off my game whenever I said 74 and it's 75, but anyways, like always, we really don't edit our stuff, so we're just gonna leave that in and kind of roll forward. With that said, I'm gonna go ahead and just get into the actual part of the podcast, which is hunting, and go over a little bit of my stuff. So this week has been a little bit tied up with just personal stuff. I was actually fortunate enough to go out Friday, but I just went out mostly to kind of scout a new area, kind of see what it was about. If there was anything promising, I might have changed everything and went hunting there. The thing is I feel like moving locations all the time. I'm always leaving something behind on the. Now I've hunted where I hunt. I've hunted there for a few years, but even there, I'm like, oh, you know what? I should have checked out this area. I should have checked out that area. And so I feel like I haven't exhausted all options. Now it's a hard area to hunt, but with that said, I feel like sometimes I'm like, man, it's such a hard area to hunt. It seems like it'd be more chances for success out of there. Plus, it's backed up to a trophy unit, so I'm like, in theory, elk don't know that there's a border there. So that's always been kind of what I worked with. Plus, I'm just trying to get to know the area, and I don't know, it's a whole thing, but this last weekend, Friday, I went up to a new area and checked it out, and it wasn't bad. It was right along the Utah border, and which was kind of checking it out and stuff. I'm like, you know what would be cool is maybe one year Joe and he could get his tag, and he could hunt the Utah side, and then I could get my tag and hunt the Colorado side, and kind of would be able to be hunting. We necessarily wouldn't hunt together, but we would hunt together in a way. So,
Right.
um, so yeah, it was pretty cool. I walked down a little draw, didn't see a lot of sign. Bunch of does were bedded down though. Whenever I walked down this draw, and it was just a quick draw. It only took maybe a half hour, if that. Um, but yeah, there's all these does bedded down just right up above me, and they're all looking at me, and I didn't want them to do their little blow thing, so I was like, I just tried to. I saw them, noticed them, but I just kind of kept moving a little bit so they didn't get too. I didn't want them to blow me out of there in case there was elk down below them or somewhere.
Right.
But I never seen anything. I did see a spike on the Utah side. Saw a spike over there, so I got all pumped up for that because I'm like, oh, I'm already seeing a spike. This is gonna be awesome. And then that was about all we saw for the day as far as out go. Not a lot of fresh sign that we saw. So that was kind of my hunt. But found some new country. I definitely would like to explore it more and see what's up. But next week I have a big like 5 day, just gonna be out there for 5 days solid, and hopefully something comes up with that. But yeah, so far been still kind of quiet on my end. So we'll see what happens. But with that said, Joe, that's really all I got for my hunt for this weekend. So what can you give the
So
people?
I tried to, I tried to do something different this weekend, being that I was just hunting here in Bountiful and knowing that I've seen elk, physically seen elk, but I've never seen big herds of elk. It's always been onesie twosies, and I've caught them on my trail camera, but I've never caught a bull elk, just cows and calves. But I thought I'd get up early in the morning and kind of go into the areas that that I kind of I've seen them, and then do some bugles to see if I can get some bugles back where we're kind of getting into the rut. And so I got up there, and the wind was blowing. I wasn't expecting the wind to blow because like my thoughts was, well, I'm gonna be able to hear let out a bugle, listens for cow calls or another bugle. And then if I got a bugle, do some cow calls, try to keep that elk in the area till the sun come up, go back to the truck, and when the sun come up, go back into that area and try to work that bull. And the first spot I got into, uh I went down a hike up and kind of got up on this ridge, which wasn't all that far. And I let out a bugle, sat there and listened, let another one out, sat there and listened. And like I said, the wind was blowing, so it's hard to hear. Then all of a sudden, like I hear it sounded like a cow call, but I think it was just a tree stretching in the wind.
Oh,
You know, a tree creaking. And but now it's like, well, it could have been. But anyway, so I kind of did that. I just I went to another spot and um bugled off the end, off kind of just off the road. I just would get out alongside the road and bugle. And I don't know, I probably should have stayed at that because the wind was blowing or not constantly, but or consistently, I should say. And as the wind was going, like, so this other spot I let out a bugle and I heard something. Like, it wasn't a bugle, it was more of another cow call. And then like I said, I heard it, but the wind was blowing. I heard a cow call or something, but it's just harder to or to tell the difference, I guess, between if the wind was making the noise or if it was an actual call. And like I kind of struck it off as like, oh, it's not a cow, I'm not going to worry about it because it's not. But then my mind goes, well, it could have been because I didn't hear it again. Like I kind of just chalked it off and was like, oh no, that's not a cow, and just keep going. So I kind of did that up and around on the road, trying to see if I could turn anything up. And then I didn't. Then I found a spot, and I was gonna go do a little hike once the sun come up, because I was like, oh, it looks kind of elky. But then then it started raining pretty good, and I was like, well, I don't really feel like getting that soaked today.
yeah.
And then I was like, I'll just turn it into a road hunt. And then the fog socked in, and I couldn't see anything. I was like, well, this is great. So I wasn't planning on being up there all day anyways, unless I did see something. So I turned around and started headed home. And as I was headed home, I come across more turkeys. So I found another turkey hunting area. Well, I shouldn't say I found another hunting area, because I was kind of hunting in the area, but I guess another location to set in. Anyways, but that was my Saturday hunt, and it was a little different. I was hoping, I was throwing a Hail Mary pass in hopes that something would give back something. But like I said, it's hard because I think I did hear something just because I didn't hear it again, if that makes sense. And the wind was blowing this like the same direction and this with the same amount of gusto.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, that noise, if it was an elk, it should happen. Well, in my head, I was like, it should happen again. And it didn't. So I was like, well, I guess maybe it was an elk. But like I said, I don't think it was, but you never know.
It's hard. It's hard to we use what, 3 of our 5 senses or whatever, however many, but your smell,
Ears and eyes.
ears and eyes, I mean, sorry, I just thought of a funny. I can't say the story, but my son did something. I promised I wouldn't tell him. I shouldn't even say nothing. But I was thinking of taste. I'll let you just imagine, but he tried to use his taste senses for elk too, I guess you could say. But I can't tell the story. I promised him I wouldn't tell nobody. So
gotcha. But like it's interesting because like you go along those lines. I think we've said it before, but just our sniffer, we got to be pretty much right up on the elk to be able to sniff them. And like elk can be 100 yards away, and they're like, oh,
yep, something's there. Yeah,
something's there.
But that's what I'm saying. Whenever only one of those senses are going off and it's your ears, I mean, you're like, well, I didn't see it or smell it, so was it really there? And, I mean, because I do the same thing, right? Everything sounds like an elk, and then I have to like go, okay, I don't think that was an elk, or and I probably missed opportunities because it was an elk, but I convinced myself that it wasn't an elk because I never seen it.
Right. Well, like along those lines too, like you're correct. Like you don't see it. And like I said, like I was going off of using my ears and it sounded like it could have been an elk or a cow elk, but like I didn't see it and I couldn't smell it. So like, and then, like I said, with the wind blowing, like it could have just been a tree creaking or cracking,
Mm-hmm.
or stretching, I guess I should say. But I don't know. I guess what I could have done is just sat there till morning and then gone after it if it was. But then that area isn't really all that elky, it wasn't.
Yeah.
So I guess unless I didn't smell it or see it, check off another 2 senses, or if it wasn't a confirmed bugle, like if it was another bugle, yeah, I would have stayed in the area. But where it was just a noise that could have been made by something else, I just kept going.
Yep. Yeah, those elk though, they only really use their one sense, and that's their nose.
Yeah.
With that experience that I had with you watching that cow and couldn't see us, we were super quiet. I mean, I don't even think that they were really they were not aware that we were there. They were not nervous in any shape or fashion, but that wind swirled. She got a smell of us.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, it's amazing. Like she just took off. I mean, no curiosity at all. She's like, time to go.
Yeah.
Ran right into the woods. So that was interesting to watch and really kind of made me like, understand. It made me understand how important playing the wind is and how I feel like everything counts. Everything counts. And it's hard sometimes. It's hard because, there's so many things going through your brain. You're trying to get some action, trying to force the issue. There's times that I feel like I should be patient and I'm not, because I'm trying to force the issue because I just want to get it done. It's just back. I mean, I don't know. It's tough. It gets tough. So
Right.
With that though, do you want to?
Yeah, we can go because that's all I basically have. you know, I wish it would have been a different experience because I was really hoping to hear something bugle and then going after it. Like I was that, but um that's about all I got. So yeah, I'm ready to move on.
All right, well, let's roll on to the next segment, which will kind of uh so I heard about this when I was going out to Utah to do that or check out that. Well, let me rephrase. I wasn't going out to Utah, but whenever I was on the Utah Colorado border, I should say, which I had to go into Utah at one point to get back into Colorado. Whole story, but anyways, on the way there, the guy that I was with that was kind of showing me the area, he brought this up, and I was like, "Oh, I never heard of that." And Fred Bear, some of you guys may know Fred Bear. He was like an old expert archer, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about him. I've definitely heard the name here and there throughout the years, and never really looked him up. But now I kind of want to look him up. But one thing that he had was the 10 commandments of hunting. And so I brought that to Joe, and I was like, "Hey man, this is be kind of fun to share with the audience and kind of talk about some of the commandments." And I think we got an idea of what we're going to do. So at the end of every show, I think from here on out, one of us will read through the whole commandments, then we'll pick one. I don't know how you want to do it, if you just want to go down in order,
Yeah, I
but
was thinking just start at the top and work our way down.
we'll pick one and then talk about that with our experiences, either how it worked for us or how we could get better using it. So with that said, we'll do the Fred Bears, the 10 commandments of hunting, and I'll go ahead and just read them off real quick, and then we can go back to number one. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So number one is don't step on anything you can't step over. Don't look for, number two, don't look for deer, look for movement, and remember that it's what they're looking for too. Number three, always approach from downwind. In the cool of the day, move uphill. In the heat of the day, move downhill. The best camouflage pattern is called sit down and be quiet. Your grandpa hunted deer in a red plaid coat. Think about that for a second. Uh, that one I kind of botched the reading, but you get the idea. All right. Number five, take only the gear to the field. Take only the gear to the field that allows you to hunt longer, harder, smarter. So yeah, well, we could talk about that in five weeks from now. um, Number six, a rainstorm isn't a reason to quit the hunt, it's a reason to stay. Seven, camouflage your appearance, your sound, and your scent. Number eight, be sure of your shot. Nothing is more expensive than regret. Number nine, hunt where the deer or elk, I should say, hunt where the deer or elk actually are, not where you imagine them to be. And number 10, last but not least, next year's hunt begins the minute this season's hunt ends. So, moving right on up the ladder, let's spend a few minutes on number one. Don't step on anything you can step over. You got anything to add to that?
You know, I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't know how many times, like, so you're paying attention to both like your feet. Yeah, there's, you stop and think about it. There's a lot, kind of a lot going on just walking through the woods, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're just going for a hike, how do I say this? Like, you can just go for a hike and like keep your eyes up and and just enjoy like the view, that the gander at what you got in front of you. But then that's kind of typically how I've hunted in the past. And I say that because for a lot of years of hunting, uh I would always be the one, not that I've always like followed to my butt every time, but I'd always be the one tripping over rocks and like kind of taking a stutter step because I tripped over something.
Yeah.
But that's because I've always had my eyes up looking for movement. or looking for, enjoying the view or looking a ways away from me. But then it wasn't until like the last couple of years that I've really tried to, I still do it, but um, I guess with bow hunting, you bringing that in close, you're bringing, instead of looking, like 10 100 yards away, you probably got to change your mindset. And once you're in, if you, like going to another one of his little commandments, hunting where the game is at instead of where they're not, if you're where they are, taking those steps really counts.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I don't know how many times that, like, I'll just be walking along, and I will say that, like, I have tried to be better at placing my foot, but you put your foot down and all of a sudden it's like a big old crack, like you're like, oh, that little twig should be able to handle my my weight, and then crack, and you're like, oh shoot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I pretty much will mimic exactly everything you just said. Is you're out there. I mean, it has to. I don't know. I feel like I'm doing so many things at once. Like you said, there's so much to it, more than you even think about. But as you're walking through the woods, you're trying to be quiet. You're trying to, not walk necessarily too slow, but not walk too fast. Trying to be quiet, keeping your eyes up, looking around. And I feel like sometimes I go out there and I feel like I'm really good. Like I'm like, man, I'm seeing everything today. It just. Then there's other times where I feel like my eyes are down at my feet, watching more of where I'm walking than looking around. And and to parallel with what you said is I 100% agree. Is I've been busted on it so many times where I went across a log or a small log or something. And I'm like, oh, I could probably just step over or step on this and to get over it. And next thing I know, it cracks. And you know, if there was anything in the area in a 10-mile radius, it probably gone now.
Right.
So, um, so yeah, these commandments, I think that it comes down to this is they're pretty simple commandments, but it's stuff to just kind of remind yourself of and remember. So that's why we wanted to go through it is because, for us, even, we've been hunting a while and I think we're getting better and better every year, but sometimes we forget the smallest things like stepping over something or not to step on something that you can step over. So,
Right. And yeah, like I know it's just like you said, making your way through the woods and keeping your speed up or slow or how, but then watching where you step too. And that on that note, like I had a couple times this year where I've heard a snap and then I've seen deer, but then it's kind of interesting. I feel like humans, they make a snap, but they continue to make noise after the snap for like like the pants. I think have gotten a lot quieter, but like your feet rubbing together, hitting as you're walking, and not it's just, I don't know really where I'm headed. It just seems like like you gotta really be, I guess, move slow or that pace between making noise and not making noise,
yeah,
which I have yet to probably really fully. No, I will say I have not conquered.
yeah, yeah. It's hard, man. It's hard. It's hard to do everything perfectly.
Right.
There's so much more that I kind of want to talk about, like some of these commandments, but we'll just save it for later. But I'm like, yeah, like I got a couple ideas of some of the other ones that I'm like, sometimes it's hard to do, like with some of these other commandments, it's hard to be perfect, but they are simple commandments, and if you could work your hunt around them to try to do them, because that's something that I've been kind of saying all year. I don't know if I've said it much on the podcast, but something I've been reminding myself is everything counts. Everything. From the smallest thing that you feel like is nothing or not a big deal. It's everything. Everything counts.
Right.
So, I've been really trying to work on that mentality is everything counts, and just doing the best we can.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I think that's all I got. Joe, you want to?
Yeah. I'll go ahead and get us out of here. Thanks for listening. We as we're it's kind of just some closing thoughts and remarks is, more or less that since it's my close of my natural, I won't be out again for my hunt for the elk this year. I do have the late season and turkey tags, but it's kind of humbling in a way because, like, we talk about the podcast and doing a hunting podcast. It's feel like it's a lot to bite off, but meaning that we're doing a hunting podcast and we're claiming that we're some hunters. And I know we say it all the time, but we're just trying to create a platform that others can maybe learn from, and more importantly, that we can learn from. And so we appreciate, the time out of your day to listen to us and comment or giving us likes. It's really, as Eric said, it's fun, and we really do appreciate it. But I'll go ahead and close and get us out of here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. And we'll catch you on the next episode. We really appreciate it. Have a good one, guys, and happy hunting.
See you guys. Perfect. Couldn't have said it better.